Activity in endgames. Now, in this example today, I'm going to show you why activity is one of the most important things when it comes to the endgame. In the next couple of minutes, you're going to learn how to play actively and just not give your opponent any chance at all. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. Now, maybe some people would say that I don't have such a great bishop because all my pawns are on light squares and my bishop is also on the light squares. So these pawns are kind of restricting the activity of my bishop, but it's actually not true here. Because we are far away from a bishop's ending, we have a lot of other pieces on the board, so this is not a problem yet. A bigger problem might be this pawn here on d4, which doesn't have any defense from the other pawns. As you can see, my rook is already here on the open file, which means that if this rook someday gets somewhere here and attacks this pawn doesn't have any defense. And also this knight is ready to jump to c6 and just attack this pawn, so this pawn is really vulnerable, as you can see. Another thing here is white's development. As you can see, he still has his knight there and his rook here in the corner, while I'm ready to jump here to c2 with my rook and to just start to get active. White here delivered a check on b5. And now guys, what is the correct move? This was a blitz game, I didn't play the right move, but you should try to make the right move here. Now the correct move is king to d8. Now I played knight to c6, which is not so good. And the reason is that he can just play rook to c1, and now suddenly he's fighting for that file, as you can see. We have kind of lost the file, the open file that we had before. And yeah, this is really not what we want here. We just equalize the position. That's why the correct move is just king to d8. Just keeping our open file. It's a beautiful move. Keeping the open file. And our next move after, let's say, knight to d2 is going to be a6. Just kicking this bishop away, and when it moves, this is the only square, because if he goes here, we just trap it. When he moves here, then we can just jump here and be really active with our rook. We're attacking these two pieces here, so he kind of has to protect it. And now we can play king to d7 finally, and he doesn't have any more checks like this, you know. And our next move is going to be rook to c8 here probably, and then we're gonna try to double up on the 7th rank with the both rooks. And as you can see, we have maximum activity, and if you're on the 7th rank with your rooks, that's all you want basically. So this would be the right plan. Also, I have one video on why rooks on the 7th rank are really just the best, so you can check that out. Okay, but I played knight to c6, which was not correct, of course. But okay, he didn't see the opportunity, he played knight to d2. And okay, here I played king to e7. And again, we're better. The reason now is that we've moved away from the spin and we're attacking this pawn on d4. So he doesn't have time to go to this open file because we can just take this pawn and now it's just all over. So that's why he has to either defend the pawn with knight f3, or like he did, he can take the knight and just get rid of this knight because it's really annoying putting up pressure on this pawn. So now, how do you take it? Of course you take it with the rook. I mean, taking with a pawn doesn't make any sense. You're giving yourself a backwards pawn and also closing down your open file, which is the main feature of your position, the main advantage that you have in this position. So that's why you just take it with this rook. And as always, when you move a rook like that, you know that the other rook is basically coming behind it. So this is really good here. He wants to fight for a file, but we just play rook c8. We're attacking this rook 2 times, so he has to react, he has to do something. If he moves the rook away, then okay, we just infiltrate, you know. We're going to take this pawn, so just double up on the 7th rank with the rooks, attacking everything on the 7th rank. So that's why he just took here, but it doesn't matter actually, because I can just take it with the rook, remain the control of the open file. He can't fight for that file because this square is not protected. So now our next move is of course just rook to c2, and we're very active here. He played knight to f3, I played rook to c2, attacking the pawn on a2, And now he already has the big problems, as you can see. If he plays something like a4, trying to, defend the pawn, then we can play just rook b2, and he can't protect this pawn anymore. He can try to get active, and now you don't take the pawn, of course, because his idea is to go here, and it will be annoying. So that's why you play king to d7 first, preventing him from going anywhere here. And now if he defends this pawn, then okay, we can start targeting this pawn with rook to d2. But we can't do that yet. We first have to eliminate this knight, and then we're going to be able to put pressure on this pawn, which is not going to be able to be defended. So that's why you can play bishop to e4, and it's just no defense. You're going to take the knight, play rook d2, and it's going to be very similar to the game. So let's just drop back here. After rook c2, he played rook to a1, defending the pawn. But now I just played bishop to e4 with a clear idea in mind. We want to go into a rook endgame. Because our rook is so active, his rook is very passive. And this a lot of times, really a lot of times, means everything. Material doesn't matter usually when you have so much activity. And okay, here he played h3, he doesn't have much to do. I just took the knight, he recaptured. He also has now some doubled and isolated pawns, which is even worse for him now. And here the move, of course, is just rook to d2, because this pawn is vulnerable, he can't defend it in any way, and we're just going to win this game now. What can he do? He played a4, I took the pawn, I played king to d7, of course, here. Just, I don't want to take here and allow him really unnecessary counterplay. As you can see, he gets these pawns, and this doesn't look the best anymore. Of course, we play king to d7 and just stop that. And on the next move, we're going to take this pawn on f4. Don't hurry, guys. This is one really important principle in the endgames. You don't want to hurry. Just keep calm and prevent the opponent's counterplay first. So okay, here he played king to f2, I just took the pawn, he attacked my rook, and we went here, attacking the other weaknesses in his camp. So he defended it like this, I played g6, he played f4, and okay, I just wanted to push these pawns here. We exchanged these pawns, and as you can see, still he's passive. His rook has to be passive, defend this pawn here. He doesn't have any infiltration points. And this pawn, as you can see, is a protected passed pawn, which is really good. And all these pawns are very weak. As you can see, they're backwards, isolated, and they could be easily attacked. So okay, here he played his rook here. He can do anything. He can just wait. And okay, I started moving my king closer. He also did that, but the problem is that my king is really closer to action here, and I'm just 2 pawns up. So I just played rook to b4. He went back. I offered the exchange of rooks. Of course, this is just a winning king and pawn endgame. So that's why he gave me a check. And now he tried to get active, but it's really too late, as you can see, because he can try to start taking my pawns here, but it doesn't matter, because you can see that in the meantime we're going to push this pawn up the board, and he's going to be really too late. As you can see, I just pushed my pawn, he attacked this pawn, I pushed the pawn, and always important in this rook and pawn endgames is that you have the rook behind your passed pawn, so then your passed pawn can easily move and promote the queen. Because if you have your rook somewhere else and your opponent goes here, then it's going to be harder for you to push this pawn, because it's not going to be defended all the way to the promotion square. So that's why this is winning, because we can play a3, and when he okay, he took another pawn, we just pushed the pawn, and now he has to protect it, of course, but the point here is that our king also supports this square, and we can just play rook to a4. This is a really typical move in these endgames, just cutting the rook from attacking this pawn, because of course his idea was to then just sacrifice the rook for the pawn, but we prevent him from doing that. And we just say, okay, we're going to make a queen no matter what. So here, okay, if he takes, then we're going to promote a queen on the next move. So that's why he checked us, but just king to a3, and there's no way of him going back and stopping this pawn. And on the next move, we're going to promote a queen and just win the game. Guys, activity is the most important thing in these endgames. As you saw here, we won basically because our rook was more active here on the open file, and it got to his second rank and just started attacking all the pawns here. As you can see, he had to defend this one. Then okay, we attacked this one, and his rook is just passive, doing nothing. Our rook is a monster here. So guys, please remember this example and try to use these principles also in your games. As you can see, also preventing the opponent's counterplay is very important here with king to d7, and then just calmly winning here. No need to allow him any counterplay here. So guys, turn on the notifications so you don't miss another video when I upload. So yeah, that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.